Saludos familia, bienvenidos de nuevo a Auténtico Boxing y tenemos a un campeón en la casa, Angelo Leo, y con nosotros también Brendan Taylor de True School Sports. Así que vamos a recibirlo. El podcast va a ser en inglés, pero van a tener sus subtítulos en la parte de abajo para que lo puedan entender y nada, sigan comentando por ahí, obviamente, para saber contra quién les gustaría ver a Angelo Leo en el futuro, pero vamos a presentarlo. Hi, Angelo. Hi, Brendan. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me, and ready to get this show started.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for having us, man. I feel great. I feel exceptional, and looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, it's amazing because in boxing, as chaotic as it is, some days, and I'm not even a boxer, but some days you just wake up and you don't have any idea what could happen. This morning, I didn't even know that I will have a champion here in the podcast, and the pleasure to interview him. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity, and I'm excited because Angelo Leo is an exciting fighter,
Mm.
and the people already know that. But Angelo, first of all, I would like to speak about, maybe something a little bit like bad, because you had your last fight canceled, and I know
Mhm.
that you did your whole camp, you
Yeah.
make all the training, the
Mhm.
weight cut, everything, and you had that opportunity erased from your career, from your record, because you didn't have that fight.
Mhm.
First of all, how do you deal with something like that when you do all the sacrifices that your fighters do, and you
Yeah.
can even perform for your fans and for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little frustrating at first, but as time goes by, you start to realize that none of the time was wasted. I'm only getting better, refining my skills, and things of that nature. So I don't think time is wasted. I just think I'm getting better. I look at it that way. And but it is a little frustrating because, like you said, I wasn't able to perform in front of my fans and put on a good show. So, but at the end of the day, that's part of the game. It happens to a lot of fighters. It happens all the time. So, yeah, it comes with the territory.
Of course. And you, Brendan, as part of the team, how did you guys deal with that? Because I know, obviously, the fighter is the main character, the one that does the sacrifices, but you guys too, you step away from your family sometimes to be in camp, to help him prepare. And how did you guys, deal with that situation?
Well, it was very frustrating because obviously, Angelo's the one that's putting his body through absolute hell, and I had a front row seat to it. He's sparring all these crazy rounds. He's doing sprints. All the stuff that fighters do. So it was unfortunate to see him not get the chance to perform because I knew how sharp he was and I know what he put in. But you kind of just had to roll with the punches. We didn't know that this was going to happen. We thought that Rais Salim was going to be a professional and make the weight because he's always made the weight. But for whatever the case may be, he didn't make the weight this time. But I don't look at it as lost time or a waste of time because I feel like we grew as a team during this camp. And I also think that we grew in terms of just learning how to do camps better. So it's only going to serve us better when we move on to the bigger fights, which everybody I'm sure is looking forward to.
And guys, you've been in the sport, you're in the center of it, of
Mhm.
boxing. I wanted to know, because when a fighter misses weight, it's always this conversation about, did he try to make weight, did he knew that he was going to fail to make weight? What did you guys, I know that you're not in his camp, but what do you guys thought about that situation? Do you think that he knew that he wouldn't be able to make the weight, and still maybe thought that the fight will go through, or what do you guys think about that?
Well, I think when I first realized that I thought he wasn't gonna make weight was when we got to the weigh-ins and he wasn't there. So right away I knew that he was probably running on the treadmill trying to lose some weight. But then BT later on told me that he had seen him the night before cutting weight, and also when I looked in when I faced off with him in the press conference, he didn't look like, in his face he still looked like he had some weight on him.
Mm.
And I kind of knew my dad pointed that out too, that he still looked like he had some pounds to lose. So right then and there, after everything happened, we put the pieces together, and we knew that he was pretty high on weight the day before the weigh-in.
Yeah,
And for you, yeah, that what
for,
it
for
was,
me,
how it was for
for,
you. Yeah.
for me, Alex, the red flags went off a little bit earlier for me than Angelo, because Angelo, he's trying to make weight himself. He's in his room, he's doing what fighters do the last day before the weigh-in. As he just mentioned, I had seen Rai Salim a little bit before the weigh-in. I saw him in the hotel, go to the hotel gym and try to cut some weight. And then what was crazy, and maybe it was one of those bad signs. The hotel we were staying in had a bunch of problems, like the elevators weren't working. So a lot of times we had to walk up to the where we were staying, and there was quite a few floors. And there was one time where I had to walk up the stairs, and I just so happened to be walking up the stairs at the same time as Rais Salim, and I saw him, and he had this black hoodie on, and he didn't want to be seen. So that to me, that's where I really started to worry about this fight not happening. And then we didn't see him at the weigh-in. He showed up late, and what happened.
Yeah, these are the kind of things that I like to hear about boxing, because it's like the war before the war. Many
Mhm.
people always are thinking about what happens inside of the ring, but the fights start way before that.
Yeah,
Sometimes even in the negotiations and everything. But these kind of things are the kind of rumors and things that you hear that are real, that can change a fight, or like in this case maybe gets a fight canceled, for example. So
Mhm.
I think it's great that you guys can share that with me. Also, Angelo, I know we're a little bit removed from this, but it was such a spectacular victory, the one that you have against Venado Lopez. Not just because the knockout was amazing, which is it was, but because of the moment that Venado Lopez was in his career. Sometimes we see the records of the fighters and we see names, but we don't see the context. And in the moment that you beat him, he was probably the best 126 pounder in the world. I remember that at that time, I'm not sure if he lost before or after Robesi, but I know that at that time they were like the two best featherweights in the planet.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted
Mhm.
to see that fight, and you
yeah.
and Divino spoiled that fight for
Yeah.
for everyone. But it was an amazing. Brendan.
I remember. I vividly remember Venado and Robesi trash talking each other a lot on Twitter. I remember because I had to do videos about it on my channel, so I remember it very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing time because everybody was speaking, the Cuban against the Mexican, and here
Yeah.
comes another Mexican and beats them. But uh, when before that fight,
Mhm.
what were you thinking? Because you were going into that fight, everybody that knows boxing knows that you
Mhm.
were a capable fighter, but he was in his moment. He was in
Yeah.
his prime, and he has such an awkward style, unorthodox style, that even if you're a good fighter with good technique, he can still beat you because you don't
Yeah.
see that kind of guys. How do you even prepare for a guy like that? What was the preparation like? Because I don't think that you found many sparring partners that can emulate that style.
Yeah. So as far as the sparring, we found as similar fighters as possible that could emulate his styles. We got a big puncher, and then we also got someone that moves a little bit and puts pressure. So we had a multiple sparrings, but to prepare for that, my dad, he was the mastermind behind the game plan, and also me, I put in my 2 cents, and we constructed a foolproof game plan for ready for whatever he brings. He likes to leap in. They call him Venado for a reason. So he likes to leap in, and then we practice our timing. We practice the left hook. A lot of people say, "Oh, it was just a lucky punch," but no, this was practice day in and day out. That punch was carefully practiced every day, and yeah, for the most part, it was just the game planning and studying. We studied them every single day to the point where we were sick and tired of watching them every day. Oh, we would put on the same. We would put on the same fight. Him and
Joel
Joel
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. Him and Rhea Abbey. We put on all those fights, and we got to know his style pretty well through just studying him.
And for you, Brendan,
Yeah,
how did you see that?
what I can say is the two things that I think really helped in that camp. Angelo mentioned getting guys a certain styles. We had a guy in camp. He's a fighter that didn't have a big career, but a guy named Jason Lugo. He had maybe like he had maybe like one pro fight. Angelo knew him from like back in the day when they used to train at Floyd Mayweather's gym. He has a super awkward style, like one of the most awkward styles you could probably find out there.
Yeah.
So almost like he was probably the most awkward style you could find for a
Yeah.
Venado fight. So that
Yeah.
definitely helped. And
That
then
that was that came full circle because I used Jason for when I fought Cesar Juarez
mm,
back in 2019, and my dad had told me he's like, what if we bring in Jason? And I was like, all right, but Jason wasn't living in Las Vegas no more. He was in El Paso, Texas. That's where he's originally from. So we got him a bus. I think we got him a bus or a plane to Albuquerque, and then we got him to to our place after that.
yeah,
And then
and
yeah, that's how we did.
he was a big part of that camp. And then also, it goes back down to the film study to the point where you watch certain fights, Alex, and you start memorizing things that the commentators are saying.
Mhm.
You start memorizing certain patterns and combinations, and you get to the point where you develop like you don't hate them forever, but for that moment in time, like you watch them so much, their mannerisms, how their nostrils flare up, everything. Like you just get tired of them. So by the time we got in there, but by the time Angel got in there with Venado Lopez, we had an idea of what to expect and what happened.
And Angelo, you were seeing these videos too with your team, or it was your team that maybe saw the videos and they spoke to you about his style?
I think it was both. It was both. I would watch some of the fights, then I would get tired and just go do my own thing, and then But then sometimes I would sit there with them and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great because some fighters say that they never saw any film of
Yeah.
their opponents and everything. I personally, everybody works like they works. If it works for you, you do
Yeah.
that then. But I think as an outsider that you have to see your opponent. Maybe you can. It can give you maybe a false sense of confidence in some things, but also you get to know him a little bit. And what Brendan said, I think it's great because you learn to understand his
Habit.
non-verbal language.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that too. What you see
Exactly.
if he's frustrated with something, or he doesn't like something in the ring.
Yeah, exactly. And then not only that, but we actually study their demeanor, their
Mm,
character, and their personality. That'll tell you a lot of what kind of fighter he is. And also, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, but for the most part, yeah, we study them inside the ring and outside the ring as well.
yeah. And
Yeah,
Alex, what I could say about Angelo, and not just Angelo, definitely his dad. Those are two of the most obsessive people about boxing you're gonna meet. And I thought for a long time that I loved boxing, and then you get into camp with them, and then you realize you may love boxing, but like, are you really as dedicated to it as these guys? So they bring out the best in you, and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
um, we're very well prepared people when they go into a fight.
yeah, I think that's great, and the results are showing that it works.
Yeah.
That formula. Then
Yes.
you had your last fight almost a year ago. Because of the situation with the whole cancel fight and everything, and I feel like it's coming in. It's never good to have a 1 year layoff. I think so. Even if you're in camp and everything, I think it's good to have activity in the ring, and it comes after your greatest victory. Then you have a close fight with Kamela. I think it was the
Yep.
last fight.
Tomoki Kameda, say.
Tomoki Kamela. Yes.
Mhm.
So when you have this kind of 1 year layoff, what do you do to stay in shape, to stay concentrated? Obviously, I know that you had your camp recently, but before that, how were you managing all that?
Basically, you just gotta stay in shape. Stay in the gym. and use that time to refine your skills, refine your technique, things like that, you know. And you want to put your time to good use, but also, you know, stay sparring, stay sharp. That way you don't get rusty or anything like that. You know, and my diet's always good. You know, I don't blow up in weight or get too high in weight. So I pretty much stay at the same level. So I don't think ring rust or anything of that nature is gonna affect me.
And you, Brendan, how do the team see that inactivity for
Well,
in
Angelo's been through crazier periods of inactivity than this because he didn't fight for 2.5 years due to some contractual promotional differences back when he was with the other promotions. But I think what it comes down to, Alex, is it's love for the sport. You gotta really love this because boxing is gonna test you over and over and over again on the business side. So I think the main thing is you want to be very honest about where you're great and try to amplify that, and where you're not so great and try to tighten that up so that
Right,
when
right,
camp
right.
starts and the contract gets signed,
Mhm.
you're going into camp a lot sharper, a lot better. And that's why
Yeah.
Angelo, I think, no matter whether he's been active or inactive, he's always been prepared and ready to fight whoever and whenever.
And that's the reason why I think you know, the commentators for Pro Box, when I first, you know, I came back and I fought Nicolas Polanco. The commentators were like, "Wow, it's like he never left." You know,
Mhm.
there's no signs of ring rust or anything like that. It's like he was sharper than ever. Actually, even better than when I fought my last fight, which was Alameda.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing quality because so many fighters, when they have this kind of layoffs or something, they don't stay in shape, they blow up in weight, as you guys said, and
Mhm.
that's a big mistake. Well,
If I can
we're
add one
going.
thing, I'm sorry, Alex, I gotta add one
Yeah, of
thing.
course.
A lot of fighters get demoralized by the sport, and they use that as an excuse to blow up and weight. And I want to let
Mhm.
people out there know this about Angelo. But there was a point in time where things weren't going so great for him in his career, and he was laying floors, like he was doing hard labor in between that layoff to stay afloat, because it's tough out there. So he's been tested. This sport, the situation he was in, broke many people, and he's a testament to hard work and dedication and really being dialed in on your goals, being a real professional. So I want people out there to look at him as that, because he had a lot of struggles that he doesn't talk about, and I know he probably won't talk about them, but I'll highlight them so that people know that this guy right here is one of the most professional fighters out there.
Yeah, I think a
I
lot of people they wrote me off after my loss to Fulton, and they kind of like, okay, well, he's just a one hit wonder, former world champion. And I always had that chip on my shoulder, and I knew that what kind of fighter I was, and I could get back to being a world champion. I just knew it was just a matter of time. I had that much confidence and belief in myself.
Yeah, and I think too that when you're a fighter like you are, and it says that the thing that Brendan is saying, I think that maybe your easier fight is the one in the ring. I think that's the
Yeah.
easy part of your journey when you're an athlete that have to to do what he can and should do to survive and to also maintain a career in boxing, because it's not an easy one. But speaking of that, I want to go to the exciting part of the interview, at least for me. I know the interview's been good. I've loved all these stories, but
Yeah.
I want to dream about the future now.
Right.
Where
All right. Okay.
I think we're in the era of unifications. I think that when my weather was in his prime, it was the era of the undefeated record. And way back when, it was who has the most defenses of the title defenses in one division. And now I think it's unifications. I think it's not even maybe jumping up in weight classes as it was before. I think we're now, everybody wants to be undisputed in their division.
Yeah.
First of all, the obvious question: would you like to be an undisputed champ on your division?
Mhm. Oh, of course. You know, of course. That's my one of my main goals is to become undisputed. There's a lot of talks of who's the best featherweight in the world. Um, I have my opinion on myself, and I believe I am the best featherweight. But that's the reason why there's a unification bouts and undisputed to become undisputed is to so no one disputes that. So I think it's only right that we fight each other.
I like that mentality. What do you got to say about that, Brendan?
Oh man, I would love to be undisputed because every day, I have a channel just like you have a channel. So people know that I'm cool with Angelo,
Yeah.
and they talk crazy to me. They say, "Oh, your friend's gonna get knocked out by this guy, by Espinoza, by
Yeah.
Shushu." So I want to prove those people wrong, but more important than that, I want to prove what I believe to be correct, and that that is that Angelo Leo is one of the best fighters in the world, and that he should be up there with the other best fighters in the world, and he just needs the fights to prove it. So I love the Espinoza fight. Everyone says it's the boogeyman. I don't agree with that. Bruce Carrington would be a fun fight. That's a great fight. And then obviously Brandon Figueroa, being the volume puncher he is, that's a fun fight as well. So I love all the fights. I'm not against any of them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and Angelo, if you're the number one in your division, in your opinion, who
Mhm.
do you think is number two of these champions? Who do you think it's the next best 126 pounder in the world?
Considering I would say probably Espinosa is
Mm-hmm.
second, and then
Okay.
Figueroa, and then probably Shushu.
Mhm.
Yeah, because Figueroa, he's got more. Uh, I guess you could say he's got more experience. He's been in there with the tougher competition. I think Shushu, he's had the a great knockout his last fight, but I don't think he's had the competition like the rest of us.
And what do you think, Brendan? You're a content creator like me. Do
Mhm.
you have to make this list? I know that the people want to hear your list. So tell me, what do you think
Oh,
about
they,
that?
they love these lists. So considering that Rafael Espinoza is the only champion in the division that's been champion longer than Angelo, he won his belt in December of 2023 when he beat Robeisy Ramirez. I believe he was like an 8 or 9-1 underdog when he did. So I'll
Mhm.
give him that respect. Although I will say his outside of Robeisy, his resume, ain't really the
Mhm.
strongest. But I'll give him his respect for consistency, right? After that, Bruce just got here 5 minutes ago, and he's the only champion in the division who didn't actually beat another champion to become champion. Carlos Castro, yeah, it's vacant title. Angelo won a vacant belt early in his career. God bless him, fair play. But Brandon went to the UK. He knocked out Nick Ball. I believe he beat Mark Moxile earlier in his career when he was at featherweights. He's got
Mhm.
good body of work. I think you could have them, 3 and 4, but I would say it's Angelo Espinoza, and then whoever you want at 3 or 4, you can interchange those guys.
Mhm.
And in terms of the fight, because I know that boxing is not that easy, to make fights, let alone do you. O sea, it's difficult to make fights, let alone make unification fights, because you have the promoters and everything. But which fight do you think it excites you the most? Like, who is the fighter that you think, man, me and this guy can have a banger of a fight, or I want to beat up this guy for this reason, whatever the case may be. Who is the first that you would like to face of these champions?
I think all of them. First off, I think all of them are great fights. We're all fan friendly fighters. But I think the one that will track the most would probably be me contra Espinosa. He's Mexican. I'm a Mexican American, so I think we'll get the whole Mexican Latino fans, and it'll make for a great fight. I think.
And you, Brendan, as a fan, not just as part of the team, but as a fan too, which is the fight that you most want to see?
In order, I'll tell you this. Espinoza is definitely number 1, just because like every day I go on my channel, I go on my Twitter, and I gotta hear that Rafael Espinoza is this boogeyman that everyone's so scared of. But the funny thing is, every time there's a big fight in the works with his name in it, somehow they find a way to not do it. He was post by Venado Lopez after Angelo knocked him out. That fell through for reasons that I heard were on his side. But I like the Espinoza fight just because people look at him as the best, and we disagree with that. Me and Angelo both disagree with that. So we want to prove that we're the best. And then after that, I would like I would say Bruce. Bruce is number two, just because Bruce has a very vibrant, electric personality. He likes to talk, so he makes things very exciting. He just got here, right? So I don't think the fight is as big as Espinoza, but I think in due time it will be a very big fight. We'll see how it looks in his next fight on the 4th of July against Rene Palacios. And then Brandon Figueroa is another interesting fight because Alex, that was a fight when Angelo was with Mayweather Promotions. That was a fight that could have happened years ago. It didn't for whatever reason, but obviously two great volume punchers, so you can't really go wrong with that. So whichever one could happen first, I'd be over the moon about it. But for me, the fight is Rafael Espinoza.
Yeah, I think I'll do my list too. I think the fight that I most want to see is definitely Espinosa. I think the styles match up well. I think that you have that Mexican element that always make the fights bigger, and I think that's a great fight. I also like very much the Chushu fight because Chushu has a great style. I like what he does. I think that fight it's like the most, I can say, maybe less war of the three fights because Brandon and Divino, they both want to come forward to pressure you. They're volume punchers. I think Chushu doesn't have that style, but I think it's a great matchup in styles. And Brandon is a guy that he has surprised me sometimes because he throws a lot of punches. He's a volume puncher. I like what he does in the ring. He has that pressure, but right now I think that Espinosa is like the bigger name in the division at this moment. And also I had the opportunity of interview him, like I think it was like a year ago or so, and he's a big guy for 126
Yeah,
because he is like, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11", something like that. He's
6'1".
I
six
6'1".
one. Oh my
He's
god,
tall.
yeah, because,
There's a
yeah,
picture of him and Jaime Munguia standing near each other, and he's like
mhm,
the same size, if not taller, than Jaime Munguia.
yeah, I believe so because I'm like 5'11". I say 6 foot, but my wife says I'm just 5'11". I don't know,
Just
but
round up.
yeah, yeah, just run it up,
Yeah.
up. But
Yeah.
he was big to my side. I don't know if we were like the same or he is
Yeah.
even a little bit higher than me, but he's a big guy for that division and he has that style. Obviously,
Mhm.
he has the problem that he likes to pressure guys and he's tall, so he sacrifices his reach, his height advantage, as do Brandon do sometimes the same thing. Sometimes he is the bigger fighter and he still comes forward, so they both has that have that, I don't know if deficiency, but that weak
That's like a
spots.
habit. It's like a habit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Angelo, I want to know, are you a boxing fan? Because I know that some fighters is just their work, they're
Mhm.
not fans, they don't see any fights. I've done interviews literally with guys that do not know anything about boxing currently. Maybe when they were kids they saw fights or
Mhm.
anything, but right now they don't. They're just fighters. How
Yeah.
are you in that aspect?
Oh, I'm a big boxing fan. Ever since I was little, I think I grew up watching all the boxers from all the eras. So yeah, I'm a big boxing fan. My favorite fighter is Roberto Duran. Uh,
Ooh.
my favorite fight is Salvador Sanchez versus Wilfredo Gomez. My favorite Puerto Rican fighter is Wilfredo Gomez, but he's my
Yeah,
favorite Puerto Rican fighter. So I give him
yeah.
that. He's still even though I like Sanchez, I like Gomez as well, just as much.
Yeah, I believe you because my grandfather, he died, but I always spoke boxing with him, and he always told me that when that fight came about, he
Mhm.
was the only one person that was saying that Sanchez will beat Wilfredo, and he was a
Ooh,
big boxing fan, but he
yeah.
was more fan of Sanchez than even Wilfredo Gomez at that
Really?
time.
Damn.
He
Yeah.
said, he said, Wilfredo is great. I love Wilfredo, but Sal Sanchez is another thing. He has too much stamina. He
Yeah,
and I
last time,
think and just to imagine that he died at 23 years old and he was
Right.
already a legend.
Yeah.
What did we miss with that guy?
That's
I,
crazy. BT thinks he says that's the best Mexican fighter.
me and Angelo have this debate.
I say Chavez is the best Mexican fighter, but BT says Salvador Sanchez.
I've always I've said that Salvador Sanchez is the best Mexican fighter because even with the little bit of time he had here on Earth, he really made it count. If you go and look at the resume and look at the names he beat, how he beat them, the style he had, I mean, I just think I just think he's the best. I really do think he's the best. And Angelo also, Alex, he's a big boxing fan because he starts hearing about fighters through me. That I'll tell him about fighters that I learn
Yeah,
about or guys that are interesting. So he's always clued in on what's going on with boxing because of things I
yeah,
talk about with him.
yeah, exactly. And yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite fighters are probably fighters from the '80s. So
Mhm.
that'll tell you how much of a boxing fan I am. I like the four kings they call them: Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran, Tommy Hearns, and Marvin Hagler. But I also think I thought there was five, considering
Mhm.
Wilfred Benitez.
Mhm.
They always exclude him, but he was right up there. He beat Duran. He gave Tommy Hearns a run for his money, and he fought Leonard. He fought them all. I think. I don't know if he fought Hagler, but
No,
he fought those four. Yeah.
No, no.
no,
So
no,
yeah, I
but
think yeah, I'm a big boxing fan. I could go on and on. I'll talk all
And
day
you know
with
what's
you guys
funny?
about
What-
boxing.
What's funny is Alex in camp we'll watch different we'll watch fighters that like are not mainstream but like forgotten guys. Like we'll watch Bones Adams or Paul
Mhm.
Spatafor. Like these guys that were good fighters, but people just
Yeah,
forget about them. You don't hear about them no more.
Yeah, yeah.
Watch a lot of those guys.
Diego
yeah, and
Diego Corrales versus Astelino Popo Freitas.
Another one.
mhm.
Yeah,
Eric
it was like
Morales
that.
versus Injin Chi was another one. The Korean that
Oh,
was a
that,
great
that
fight.
was a good fight. That was a good fight.
Mhm. Yeah, you mentioned Paul Spadafora. Wow, I remember because when I was a kid, I don't know, because at that time social media wasn't like it is today, but I always remember to read comments about Paul Spadafora beat up my weather inspiring, and
Yeah, yeah,
everyone in
Yeah.
boxing knew it. It was like, I think that there's a video too. I don't remember, but I remember that name, and it took me back to those years when I was
yeah.
reading about that, because I got introduced to boxing via Miguel Cotto, because when I was a kid, Cotto was in his prime. He was like I didn't saw the Tito Trinidad era, but Cotto was the closest thing that we had since Tito to that. So I got introduced in those years to boxing. Considering that you're a boxing fan, I wanted to, briefly, not too much, but speak a little bit about, maybe some fights that are coming up in the calendar, in the schedule. What do you guys think?
Mm.
Maybe, what's your opinion in some of uh, confirmed fights and some fights that people are mentioning right now in boxing, if that's
So
okay with you guys.
Yeah, name them. Name them.
it looks like the big fight right now is Zayas versus Boots.
Mm.
That's the next big one. I really like that fight for Zayas, and I like that fight in general. But I think Zayas, he's got good boxing. He's looking strong in there. Boots, very great counterpuncher. I think it makes for an interesting match, to be honest.
Yes, it
So,
does.
a couple of days ago on my channel, I recently announced that for that particular fight, I actually don't want to make a prediction because anytime I make a prediction, it's like you get married to your pick and you can't enjoy the fight. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
be there, so I want to just enjoy the fight and value the moment. But what I can say is this: I think for Jerron Ennis, it's great to see him finally on that big stage because he's been having a hard time getting fights over the years.
Yes.
And I've actually been to Philadelphia. I've seen him spar. I've seen him work. He's a really very talented fighter, very athletic. Um, and then as for Xander Zayas, I grew up in South Florida, and that's where he grew up. We grew up in the same area, so I saw Xander Zayas as a kid, and the amateur gyms coming up, and he's been fast tracked, and a lot of people aren't giving Xander a chance. I feel like he has a very good team. He's a very smart boxer, and he's gonna really test the boxing IQ of Jerron Ennis, which people say Jerron Ennis has as high a boxing IQ, which I believe he does, but he hasn't been on that level or been in there with a guy who could test that boxing IQ. So that's why I think it's such a great fight. And the winner of that fight in my opinion, becomes a clear top 10 pound for pound fighter and one of the next stars in the sport.
I agree with your statements. Actually, these are the kind of fights when a Puerto Rican fighter gets a big fight like this, and I don't have a clear, prediction to make, because I gotta be honest. And when I interviewed Sander, I told him this. I told him that when I saw that Yaron Ennis was coming to 154, I said it's time to, let me change real quick the camera here. Now, okay,
There you
okay.
go.
When when Yaron Ennis announced that he was going to 154, I said in the podcast in Spanish, bueno, a recoger, let's pick up the bell, let's do anything, let's go to 160, let's move, because he's coming, and he's an amazing fighter. Obviously, I got that, that fan in me wants Sander to win, and as the fight it gets closer, sometimes I start to justify myself and say why Sander will beat Jaron Ennis, even though I think it's a difficult fight. But one thing that I actually mentioned in the podcast, it was that their styles don't are not the same. But I compared this fight to, for example, Bernard Hopkins, Roy Jones Jr. In this way, the styles are not the same, but what I'm saying is that Bernard Hopkins, like Sander, is a guy that has his technique and what he does in the ring, and he doesn't go too away from that. He maybe made some adjustment and things, but they're orthodox boxers. With Roy Jones Jr. and Jaron Ennis, you got real athletes that they can drop the hands, and
Mm.
they sometimes doesn't they don't rely that much on the basic skills, just to
On the
speak. For example,
Correct.
fundamentals, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, Jaron Ennis has great boxing skills, but sometimes he left them behind so that he can do his show and the
He's
show
athletic, very athletic, and stuff
and,
like that.
and everything. And I think a guy with a jab like Sander, that's discipline in that style,
Mm.
can maybe give him some problems because of that.
It's sort of like me and Venado. Venado was unorthodox,
Eh,
and I was real, sound on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
exactly.
A lot of times too, though, like as Angelo know, who being in big championship fights, sometimes you need a certain guy in front of you to really tighten things up. So even
Hmm.
though Boots is known for showboating and Boots is known for dropping his hands and playing around, I don't think he's gonna do that in this fight. I think and if he does, it's gonna be only if he's just completely dominating Xander Zayas. But I
Hmm.
think you're gonna get the most technically sound Jaron Ennis you can possibly get, because he's not trying to leave it to chance and lose on this stage. It's a unique fight because even though Xander is the unified champion, he's younger. And so
Hmm.
just by him taking the fight when he didn't have to, and I know he didn't have to because I've talked to the matchmakers at Top Rank, he didn't have to take this fight. They wanted him to go to Puerto Rico and fight the number 13 guy and just keep making money.
Hmm.
But no, he
Shout
said,
out
you
to
know what?
Xander though.
I can't get up to that kind of fight. I came here to be great in the sport. Give me Jaron Ennis. So you got to respect him.
You
But
do.
like Xander, I think he's in a win-win because he's young. Boots is at a more advanced stage of his career. He has 36 fights. If he loses this fight, people are going to say that he was a hype job. He was this. He was that. This is why he didn't fight all these guys all these years. So he has more pressure on him to perform, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's why many people are respecting now Sander more than before, because he in Puerto Rico, people were talking about, no, he should fight this or that guy when he was 18 years old, 19 years old. Just because they hear his name, they think that he's ready to to go to Fundora and everything, like 4 or 5 years ago. Right now he's just 23. So
Yeah.
the people were having some expectation that weren't real, but right now they're seeing that he's taking the risk, and I think that of course you got to respect that, and I'm excited about that fight. Obviously, I got another question for you guys,
Go
and
ahead.
and this one I like very much. Do you guys think Benavidez has a chance of beating Alexander Usyk? How do you guys see that?
Mm,
It's interesting. Um,
I think he does have a chance. I wouldn't. I don't think it's far fetched. I think Benavidez does have a chance, although I think he is a little small for heavyweight still, because he did look small for light heavyweight. But his speed there, I haven't seen speed like Benavidez in that division, or in much less in the heavyweight division. So I think that could give Usyk some problems. Usyk, his footwork, his power probably will be a major factor in that fight. But I do think Benavidez has a chance in that fight.
I think it all really depends upon if Benavidez can get to the body of Usyk. We saw when Usyk fought Daniel Dubois. You know, Dubois gave some fits there in the pocket when he hit him with some body shots. People still debate to this day if it was a low blow or a clean shot, but you know, I think that's the key to beating Benavidez. You know, getting downhill on him and using your speed and your volume to give him problems. Um, you know what's funny? I just made a video about this recently. I think if Benavidez does go to heavyweight, I think it won't be against Usyk. I think it'll be like if Richard Torres Jr. wins the title, they could do Benavidez for Richard Torres, Mexican American versus Mexican American for the heavyweight championship. I feel like that's a blockbuster fight. But yeah, he has a chance against Usyk, but you know, I don't think it'll happen.
No, actually, a couple days back, I made a video about it, and I saw that Jose Benavidez shared it. So, and I was saying that I don't want to see that fight now, because I think that Benavidez still has some opponents. You know, at cruiserweight at 175, I think the Bivol fight is a great fight, a difficult fight for both of them. You got Jayo Petaya, for example. I know he's with Sufa now, but I think like he can go up to heavyweight. I just don't think it's the moment. But if he
Yeah.
does, he's daring to be great, as we say.
Yeah, yeah.
The fight for Benavidez for me though, you didn't mention it, was him versus Artur Beterbiev. I still want to see that fight. I still think that's one of the most violent, most fun fights in the whole sport of boxing.
I can make a bold prediction about that fight. I think
I think
Beterbiev, yeah,
I think he could beat better beef.
I think
Yeah.
he beats him.
I think
Now,
so too.
now
Yeah.
I think he beats him. Now I think he beats him. But
Yeah.
like, if this would have been 3, 4 years ago, I would have went the other
And
way.
no,
Yeah.
no, that Prime Better BF a couple years back was a menace,
Yeah.
and actually those fights with Bivol were great, but I think stylistically, I think Bivol is a more difficult matchup for him, because you know he has that Soviet style, you know, the jab and moving, and
Yep.
I think Better BF, he's strong, but I think the speed will be too much for him. I think Benavidez wins that fight. Against Sopetaya, that's a difficult fight, but I still don't think that Benavidez will be stopped in that fight. I think Benavidez beats Sopetaya too. I favor him, maybe, you know, except for Usyk and Bivol is a 50-50 fight, at least for me. But
Yeah.
other than that, I see him beating every one of those guys in those divisions. I think. I don't know.
What do you think,
I
Angelo?
think I think Benavidez is a dog. He could definitely be. I think Usyk is getting a little bit closer to a 50-50 fight. So as Bivol, I agree with Alex on this.
You know, what I can say about this is you know, I don't know if you know this about Angelo, but you know, when Angelo was a teenager, he grew up in the LA area, so he used to train a lot at Wild Card Boxing Gym.
Yeah.
Manny
Mhm.
Pacquiao was there, and I know Angelo's dad and Benavidez's dad. They know each other pretty well, and they used to cross paths sometimes back when they were younger. Right, right, Angelo?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was training at Wildcard, so was Jose Benavidez Jr. and David Benavidez. And the David Benavidez wasn't the same Benavidez as he is now. You know, he was a bigger kid, and he was that kid with the chip on his shoulder. But I didn't really cross paths with David Benavidez so much because I know he was going to school out there in Arizona, and he would sometimes go to school in California. But for the most part, I think Junior at the time was the one that they were pushing the most because he was signed with Top Rank and stuff like that. So we would always we even sometimes I would go out with senior and my dad, we would go out to lunch and all that here and there. So yeah, we're known. We know the Benavidez is pretty good.
Wow, that's great. That's cool about boxing too. You know that you guys get to know, as kids, and you cross path as champions later in the years and everything.
Yeah.
I think that that's great about boxing. Let me just ask you about the last fight, and let me think which fight I want to ask you guys about, because right now they're coming up some pretty good fights. So we're going to talk about. No, actually, I have a better question.
Okay.
Ryan Garcia is talking about facing everybody. I personally, I've said in the show, if I don't see a poster of Ryan Garcia fighting, I don't believe it. I don't believe he's fighting Conor Ben. I don't believe he's fighting Ilia Topuria. I only, I only believe when I see the poster of that fight. But
Yeah.
right now, at 147, which which is the best fight? Not not only for Ryan. At 147, it's a division, and I ask about 147 because it's a division that over the years had some great champions. But right now, I feel it's a little bit like, how do you say in English? Stale. It's the
Stale.
word.
Yeah. Stagnant.
Yeah,
Stale.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you have the names, you have
Yeah.
everything, but you don't have the fights. So,
Or
which fight do you guys will make in that division now?
I think Rolly and Devin Haney.
Mm.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I like to see that fight. It's a unification fight. They haven't fought each other. I know Rolly beat Ryan, and
Mhm.
Ryan beat Devin Haney. So I
Mm,
think it's only right that they both fight each other. Their styles are completely different. You know, Rolly's he's a big power puncher, counter puncher. Devin Haney, he's got the speed, also a good counter puncher. Um, so I think that fight would be probably the best one at 147. I know the IBF champion is
Lewis
Luis
Crocker.
Lewis
Crocker.
Crocker. I've never seen him fight, to be honest,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I
I know
know
he's fighting Liam Paro now. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah, that
the
makes
exact
sense.
date, but I know that they're fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me at 147, I'll give you two fights. I'll give you two fights actually. So
Ooh.
I'll say the first one I would like to see is Devin Haney versus Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis has talked a lot about going to 147 pounds. Keyshawn Davis has a very high pedigree from being an Olympic silver medalist, and he's fought some pretty experienced fighters in his 15 fights in the pros. I would like that fight because I feel like from the Devin Haney side of things, if you're gonna fight and beat a guy like Keyshawn Davis, the best time to do it is now while he's still a little bit, immature. Um, so there's that fight. I like that fight a lot. And the second fight I'll give you, just from a pure excitement standpoint, I would like to see Ryan Garcia defend his title against Brian Norman Jr. I think that'd be a fun fight. Big
Like,
punchers, two
ooh.
big left hooks. I like that fight a lot for the sport of boxing because both guys are vulnerable. They have their vulnerabilities. Brian Norman Jr. don't got the best chin in the world. Ryan's
Mm.
been stopped before, so that one is just going to be about who lands their big shot first and
Yeah,
who,
I
and
like
who
that
has
one
more
too.
durability.
Wow, I like that fights. But you know what I forget to ask you about,
Go,
and
go,
it
go ahead.
was obvious.
Go ahead.
And this is the last one, I promise.
I
But
think
you
I know.
guys, you both guys know a lot about boxing. A
Yeah.
lot about
A
boxing.
little
Yeah,
bit.
we do. We do.
A little bit.
No, a lot, because and I say that obviously, Angelo, you're a champion, but I mean, like, many fighters don't know about this fight or matchups, or don't
Mhm.
care about them. So I'm genuinely surprised by this. Who should be Loma's return fight? We're speaking about Navarrete, Gervonta Davis. What do you guys think? Which one would you pick,
Mm,
or any other name?
I say 135, right?
I assume, I think so. Maybe
135.
130,
130,
135,
130,
something like that.
135. Yeah.
Yeah, him versus Murataya wouldn't be bad. I like that fight against Murataya or Navarrete. But I
Mhm.
think Navarrete would be good. I think because Navarrete is also coming up in weight. They both, came from I think the featherweight division.
Mhm.
So I think Navarrete, a big fight like that would really solidify his legacy.
Mm, yeah.
Mm,
And
I
I
know.
think Vaquero needs one of those legacy fights. So I would love that fight just for the style matchup. And Navarrete's one of his losses is to one of Lomachenko's Olympic teammates, Denis Baranchyk. So that might give Lomachenko the confidence to take that fight.
Mhm.
But I just thought about it now. So I would like to see Lomachenko. If this guy wins his next fight, I would like to see this fight for Lomachenko. I would like to see Lomachenko come back and fight Oshaki Foster. I think that'd be
Ooh.
a good chess match. I think Oshaki Foster is a guy that has paid his dues and had a very interesting career, like losing some early fights in his career to now become champion. If he beats Raymond Ford, I don't think Shakur Stevenson's going to fight him personally. So I would
Mm.
like to see him fight Lomachenko. That would be a good test of his IQ.
I like those fights are great. I think, honestly, I think Murataya to me for Loma right now, I think I think it's a little bit too much risk
From
for
the guy,
for the reward, let's say. Because
Yeah,
for example with Yerbonta you got a great, maybe a great paycheck, and Murataya will be a good paycheck too, but I think it's not the same. And Murataya is actually a very complete fighter. He surprised me with Andy.
he
In
did,
that
yeah. Same here.
fight,
you and me both.
yeah, he looked amazing in that fight. So I think as a fan, I think Vaquero is the most exciting fight because of the style. He's also another unorthodox guy that you can prepare for, but
Right.
Loma's a legend. So
maybe
Mhm.
maybe one day Angelo versus Vaquero. That could be a fight one
That'd
day.
be, yeah, that could possibly be one, yeah.
an
If he stays at
amazing.
130, eventually, I think I'll move up to 130. But as of right now, I feel comfortable at 126.
And with your experience with Venado, I think that's a matchup that
Yeah, yeah.
you have.
When I hop on TikTok live, a lot of my fans and all the viewers always, sometimes they'll mention that fight, me and Navarrete, but for the most part it's me and Espinosa. But every now and then you'll get a, oh, you and Oshaki Foster, or you and Navarrete would be a great one.
Mhm.
I've been saying this on my channel, with all respect to the fighters that Angelo gets linked with, like Espinoza and Shushu and Brandon Figueroa and even Inoue. I genuinely feel like the toughest test out there is actually Vaquero at 130. To be honest, like if Angelo got a contract tomorrow and they were like, "Yo, you're fighting Vaquero," that would be the one where I'm like, "Damn, this is gonna be a really hard training camp," because they're all hard. But that
Mhm.
guy he brings so much unorthodox things to the ring. It's hard to prepare for those things. He's long. He hits pretty hard. He's got a great gas tank. He's crafty. He's not as hittable as people think. So I think I think he's a real challenge for anyone, even the great Angelo Leo.
No, and Navarrete is coming from, to me, his best performance in a couple of years, because with the fighter that he was facing in Nunez, who
Yeah,
is a puncher.
big time
But to me,
puncher.
Navarrete looked amazing in that fight. They're talking about they have made some changes to their team in the nutrition side of things, and I think
Yep.
it's great because he looked amazing in that fight. Also, another fight that I don't think I was maybe picking Sugar Nunez, but I thought that Vaquero would have a toughest fight, and Vaquero, and we were all expecting a war, and it was a good fight, but Vaquero dominated that fight, and I think he looked great in that one. So I think, Angelo, that's a great fight too. We
That
gotta
is.
make a campaign, to see you against Divino, against El Vaquero. There are great
In a way,
fights out there for you.
yeah.
Those are great fights, yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
Inoue too. Inoue is eventually going to move up to 126 pounds.
Well,
So
we don't
I
know
think
yet. We don't know yet though, because Top Rank they're saying some different things these days.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But I hear a lot about that one too. I hear a lot about that one too. Inoue, Espinosa, Vaquero, all those fights. I want those fights.
Yeah, I think there are amazing fights out there. I hope that you can get them, because that's the thing. I know you've shown in the past that when you get the opportunity, you know how to handle yourself. So I
Yeah.
think it's great opportunities out there for you. Well, Angelo, Brendan, honestly, thank you guys for the opportunity. I've enjoyed this show. I hope that you guys too. And my English is not perfect, but
Oh, it
I
was
hope
great.
that you
No,
could
it's good.
understand
It's good. Yeah. Yeah.
across
Same
the
thing with me.
years.
You know, my Spanish isn't perfect, but you know, I could speak a little bit too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you guys. I hope to have you soon in the future.
Yeah.
And to you guys, if you want to say anything to the fans, and so they can follow you guys too.
Yeah, so you guys could follow me all on Instagram, Angelo X Leo. Um, also TikTok, Angelo X Leo 777. And yeah, you guys stay tuned. I'm ready for all the big fights, and we'll see you guys soon.
And all I'll say is to the boxing fans out there, just I know it sucks to hear, but just be patient because the unification fights are on the way. And this guy in the middle of the screen is not the reason why the fights haven't happened. His track record has shown he'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. But yeah, follow Angelo's career and follow me on YouTube on at True School Sports. And yeah, definitely subscribe to Auténtico Boxing, man. Good guy.
Of course, we should do this again in the future when you guys
We
have your
should, we
next
should.
fight. I
Yeah,
want to be on that list of interviews, because I've enjoyed it. Thank you guys.
no problem. And
All
you'll
right,
be on the
no
list.
problem. All right, thank you, Alex.